my very best. I do want to dive into your book because I think there's plenty to talk about with it. And as a a guy that's got about 15 book ideas, rattling around in his head, I think it's also a good idea to get the mechanics of bringing a work to publishing on top of everything. But first things first, A Parasite's Paradise, man. What was your inspiration to do this?
So, all right, fuck it. We can say anything, right? So the truth is, right. I do psychedelics every once in a while. And this kind of came to me during a light acid trip. I was like, I really want to write a book, but I had all of these ideas, like you said. And basically what ended up happening is I combined them all into one book. And so kind of being in this creative state.
When you say you had multiple ideas for different books and you said, screw it, I'm throwing them into one book.
Yes, that's pretty much what happened.
Okay.
I had this idea, like I wanted to write about Irwin Schiff, and I wanted to write about what happened to him, and then I also wanted to write about Duncan Lemp. But I came to the conclusion, like all of these are really short stories. They're like a blog. It's not a book. So let me combine all of that. And then also, like, how many people have ever heard of the Alien Sedition Acts of 1798? Not a whole lot. But you're going to learn all about it in this book, and you're not even going to realize it. So I combined all of these things that are really boring to most people, and I put it in this fake story, in this fictional historical story. And you get to meet all these really important people like Mises and Rothbard and Paul Krugman, and Prescott Bush makes an appearance. There's just so many people that and you might not realize it while you're reading through, but there's a little decode section at the end that's going to tell you all of these things. Like, this is what the dates mean. This is what the times mean, the names mean. So that way you can explain to your normie friend, like, hey, look, this is who these people are. You can go do some more research.
Yeah. Do you mind if we kind of dive into the actual story?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Okay. So, when I first read it, I didn't know what I was going to get into. I had no idea that this was kind of like a fact fiction book, right? Are you a fan of like Stephen Prescott or anything? The guy that wrote The Gates of Fire that was turned into 300, like the Spartan story.
No, actually, I don't read any fiction of any kind. I only read like history and economics. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, you got a real gift for it, because this is kind of what it reminds me of. If you guys have ever read Stephen Prescott, Gates of Fire, or anything like that, where it's kind of like faction, like fact meets fiction, it's a really interesting, very cool, fast read too. The premise, I guess, being that you start life as a slave, right? In what, 1749, I believe is what it. Yeah, 1749. December 24th, right? I got into this and I was like, all right, I think I misread the beginning, because I think in the beginning I was like, all right, this is obviously not about you. And I didn't go ahead to the back of the story, because I was like, I got about halfway through and I was like, I got to go. Like, this is leading to something that he's going to uncover at the end. So I had to fast forward to the end. But it's the slave. And it's this introduction of living life on a plantation of sort, being property of the man, and it starts to evolve with these little interactions. I was like, whoa, man! Like, what is happening here? Has Harrison found some papers out there that he's like, basically taken from colonial English and translated it basically into modern day English while telling a story? I was just like, my brain was just like, this is really fun stuff, especially for a libertarian, I think.
Yeah, the amount of firsthand accounts that I read, and like the buck breaking stories that are included in the book. Yeah. Reading through those accounts.
Tell everybody what buck breaking is that doesn't know, because I mean, it's a really heinous practices. Obviously, was used prolifically.
So buck breaking was the act of breaking a young slave, someone who was going to be a problem, you know, a young guy who was strong, who was probably going to cause some type of ruckus. Well, what they would do is they would humiliate them. They would make them wear short like sacks so that way their pecker and their balls were hanging out and they were rubbing on the dirt. They would put bags on their head. This is where the term put a bag on her comes from, is they would put bags on the woman's head and then they would make the child go have sex with the mother. And so that was something that happened quite often as a way of buck breaking, putting people in hot boxes so that way you can stress them and physically pain them. There were all these ways they had of like psychologically breaking you so that way you were just Play-Doh in their hands. And I talked about a couple of them in the story. And the one that really hurt the most was reading about them making, God, I'm tearing up just talking about it, making them have some teenager go have sex with their mom and then pulling the bag off after he was done. And it's like, that's just the amount of the lack of humanity that goes into even thinking of that is just so absurd and disgusting that, you know, when you read something like that, it's like, this is on its own, this is fiction. So something like that just had to go in the book.